Did you see President Obama on 60 Minutes the other day? That was one of the worst interviews the president has ever done. And the reason was that Steve Kroft, the veteran CBS newsman, very aggressive with the president, mostly about Syria, as he peppered the president with questions about why it was going so badly, about Vladimir Putin, challenging his leadership in Syria. And then there was this exchange, and I thought this kind of encapsulated the tone of the whole interview. When Kroft was talking about the program, the much ballyhooed program for the U.S. to train and equip so-called moderate Syrian rebels, which has been a complete disaster, which the president has now ended, cost $500 million. Here's how it went.
I know you don't want to talk about this.
No, I'm happy to talk about it.
I want to talk about this program because it would seem to show, I mean, if you expect 5,000 and you get 5, it shows that somebody, someplace along the line, made some sort of a serious miscalculation.
You know, Steve, let me just say this.
It's an embarrassment.
Look, there's no doubt that it did not work.
And it wasn't long after that that Steve Kroft said that, Mr. President, I feel like I'm being filibustered here. So it was a very aggressive Steve Kroft, both on the question of Syria, on the question of Russia, and also in a second segment about Hillary Clinton and her email mess, getting the president to acknowledge it had been a mistake on the former Secretary of State's part. But Obama was then deflecting questions about whether it was a big deal or not, and insisting that national security had not been breached. This was a really telling moment for me because over the years, and I've known Steve Kroft a long time, and I respect him as an aggressive journalist, some of the 60 Minutes interviews have been a little bit on the soft side. So here you have a president who's not that popular at the moment, who's in his 7th year, so nobody has to worry about getting many more exclusive sit-downs with him, and who's got a full-scale mess on his hands in Syria, and that led to a very aggressive interview at a time when not only are the media perhaps being a little tougher on Barack Obama, but when other candidates running for his job, even on the Democratic side, now trying to distance themselves from the president, in part not to be seen as running for a third Obama term, but in part because the president not exactly riding high politically right now. And so it occurs to me, why haven't we seen more tough and aggressive interviews with President Obama like this? I don't think it's because other media folks are giving him an easy ride. It's because when it comes to television interviews, mostly over the last couple of years, Barack Obama has agreed to sit down only with liberal sympathizers or with some of these sort of offbeat characters. So yes, you see him with Chris Matthews, and you see him with Jon Stewart, and you see him with New York Times columnist Tom Friedman, or you're seeing with Zach Galifianakis, or the crazy woman who took the bath in the Fruit Loops from YouTube, Glozell Green, and others who are going to be kind of awestruck or be very nice to the president. He has not sat down, with perhaps some rare exceptions, with tough broadcasters from mainstream media organizations that are going to give him a hard time. Again, there may be some exceptions to that. So that's what you can do in a second term. Barack Obama's not running for anything. He doesn't have to reach out to the toughest inquisitors in the mainstream media. He doesn't have to do another interview with Bill O'Reilly on Fox News. Instead, he can kind of pick and choose. So when he did go to his go-to guy, and Steve Kroft, ever since Obama was a candidate for president, has been the go-to guy. 60 Minutes has been the go-to broadcast. I wonder if he was surprised by how hard Kroft hit him, but it was perfectly appropriate, perfectly fair, a very tough interview, and in pure television terms, hardly Barack Obama's finest hour.